Also, shout out to the Cowboys. 22 different players scored a touchdown this season. NFL record. The New York Giants only scored 23 total touchdowns all season.
All right, beat Joe Judge.
Tony and Golladay, 0 touchdowns between the two of them.
Unbelievable.
And it's unbelievable that they tweeted out how many touchdowns is this guy going to have this year.
Yeah.
0. The answer is 0.
Backfire. All-time backfire.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones. Upside alert. Upside alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there. There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach. That is
the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 99 of Birds vs. Boys. It's playoff week. It's wild card weekend, and we are both in the playoffs. The Eagles take on the Tampa Bay Bucks. 1 o'clock on Sunday, and the Dallas Cowboys at home against the San Francisco 49ers at 4:30 on Sunday. Isn't it so fitting, Aidan, that these games are back-to-back?
Feels like a normal week.
Yeah,
although
right.
This also probably feels like this is the most important episode of Birds vs. Boys of all time. So,
yeah, and the most nerve-wracking one for me.
That's me too. Me too. We can make a Super Bowl run too.
Okay, easy there, bucko.
Listen, a little bit of rain this week, a little bit of cold next week.
You're playing with house money.
Yeah, but also that doesn't stop us.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be there. We're ready. This is no joke. This is probably the most important episode that we have ever had. And
that's why we have not 1, but 2 guests on tonight.
It will also probably be the longest episode that we have ever had. So tonight, like Kevin said, we've got 2 interviews because this is a huge week. We're both in the playoffs. We had to get the lowdown on both of these teams. So we brought on Evan Winter of Buccaneers on SI, Buccaneers on Sports Illustrated. He and I one-on-one interview, which was new and different, but we really hit it off. He and I talked about college football for 15 minutes after we turned it off. After the recording was done, we were still talking about football.
That's the best.
And then we go back to our good friend, Chase Sr. He's been on the show before. He will be on the show tonight. He covers the 49ers for Chat Sports, and he's down in Dallas, and he's an Eagles fan. So bing, bang, boom. Got it all with Chase. So we talk about the Cowboys game with him and get the lowdown on both of the opponents. So we have quite a bit of interviews tonight, but also we'll be talking about our teams and how we feel going into the playoffs. First week ever that Birds vs. Boys has had playoff matchups to talk about.
So, and next week's obviously episode 100. So do you think 100 is more, we're both still in the playoffs, one of us is in the playoffs, or this is episode 100, congratulations, you're both eliminated?
It would be hilarious if we had episode 100 through a celebration. They're like, all right, well, let's talk about what went wrong.
That's like perfect.
So, I want to talk about the draft because we're shit out of luck.
Let's bring on Jeff Kavanaugh to talk about 3rd-round picks.
Yeah. Who is your favorite member of the Georgia defense the other night that you won in the draft that could fix the holes from when we lost by 21 on Saturday? Happy 100th anniversary.
I can feel it already. Oh, yeah. Both interviews absolutely phenomenal. I apologize for not being there with Evan, but I had no doubt that Aidan would hold it down. Hey, listen, I had to do it with Ari Temkin. Okay, you bailed. So
I don't know when they hand out the Pulitzer prizes, but I'll be tuned in for that one. I'll tell you that right now.
Mm-hmm. And then Chase, just absolutely nothing but electric content from him, especially when he does his Chat Sports live game, getting hammered, doing shots, and going play-by-play. So Chase brings the expertise and the electricity at the same time. So I know with Chase and I think with Evan, we kind of more touched on the opponents. So now in the beginning of the show, I think we should touch more on our teams heading into these matchups.
Okay.
So we usually go in the order of the times. So I will give you the table since you are the 1 o'clock game on Sunday.
Thank you for this time.
Can I say one thing before we get into this? How angry I think you and I both should be right now.
Me?
Both of us.
You're fucking telling me I sold my soul to Carson Wentz and they're out of the playoffs.
Well, that too. But we have to watch fucking Ben Roethlisberger play on our TVs on Sunday and not Justin Herbert.
Yeah. Hold on. Justin Herbert is the GOAT. That was like watching Game 6 Clay in the NBA playoffs. But that was the first thing prepping for the show. Eagles back in the playoffs. And the first thing that I wrote down was about that Sunday night football game. That was fantastic.
Wild. Unbelievable.
Wild, right?
I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to sleep. My wife's like, turn it off. I'm like, shh, go sleep.
It was just great because like we're so divided as a society, and what brought it together was just this moment in time where you're doing a social experiment through sport, which you don't see very often, just hoping for that tie and rooting for that tie. And it was just such an obscure moment. And we are Herbert guys. We're huge Herbert guys. Like I said, it just reminded me of Game 6 Clay, where a guy he's just like, all right, like I'm just going to do this myself, and everything clutch that needs to happen, I'm going to do it right now. So that was like an amazing moment for us, and just like an amazing moment in sports with just like the prisoner's dilemma unfolded in a Sunday night football game.
You know, it was hilarious too, when they kept showing that Steelers fan in the crowd in Vegas.
That was fantastic.
He was just like,
you could just like, he was so hype at the end of the game, realizing how close the Raiders were. And that look of despair that came over him in overtime, when we all realized, like, you started to put the math together, and you're like, they're running it.
Yeah.
And they're at the 50. This could be it.
We're gonna do it.
That clock is running. Oh man. I told you last week, I was like, I don't want to sacrifice Carson, but if I see a kneel off, it will be worth it. And everything unfolded correctly for it to happen, and it happened with a tie.
But now we have to watch Ben Roethlisberger Sunday night and not Justin Herbert.
Yeah, that's not the best. I'll talk. I have a little bit about Brandon Staley later when I want to get into it with Sirianni, or I could just segue it now.
Get into it.
That? Because we're getting into this game. Sirianni is the only rookie coach to have made the playoffs. I do think that's like a bit overblown. I love Sirianni, but you know, like David Culley and the Texans were not going to the playoffs. You know, and you know. What's Dan Campbell for the Lions? Great guy, great coach. Biting kneecaps. Lions were never making the playoffs. Just was not going to happen. So it's a bit overblown, but I still think it's impressive. And reason being, we've compared Sirianni to Brandon Staley in the past, but I do think there's some irony with what happened with Staley on Sunday night, where he's a great coach, but numbers don't tell the whole story. Sometimes you just need that level of emotional intelligence. He took that time out, and he didn't read the room. He didn't read the field. He was basing it off numbers. And sometimes you need to have that emotional intelligence attached to those analytics. I think the emotional intelligence is what helped Sirianni right the ship this year. And ironically, it's what's keeping the Chargers out of the playoffs this year.
It's actually mind-blowing, because if you remember earlier in the season, we were calling Brandon Staley like best rookie coach of the year. He was Sirianni like without ADD, and now
one of them's in the playoff and one of them is not. I think, you know who I finished Ted Lasso this week? Nick Sirianni is Ted Lasso, 100%. Just that energy that he has, and the, like we said, the emotional intelligence.
He's not as cool though.
Well, no, but Jason Sudeikis as a person is also very cool. But just like that emotional connection that he has, where you and I, this was like one of the first shows that we did where Sirianni was the coach. We're like, he seems like a genuinely good guy, and I hope he succeeds. And you have that feeling when you're watching Ted Lasso. You're like, this guy knows nothing about soccer, and I want him to succeed. And just, he got that label early on, Sirianni, because you didn't see him coach a game. And then when he did coach games, they were 2-5, and he was bumbling and stumbling in the press conferences. And you're like, oh, this guy is an idiot. But he just developed that bond. Yeah, playing rock, paper, scissors and all those other weird quotes. And
watering the flowers.
Watering the flowers, of course. And there was just that, like, you know, this guy, that transition from, oh, this guy might be just like a buffoon to, oh, there's a reason for all of this. This guy truly cares. This guy's truly a good person. His emotional intelligence is paying off. And I see that with Sirianni. He like knows every press reporter's name. He at the end of the press conference, he went through and said, I'll stick around a little bit longer in case we missed anybody. And just reminded me of like Lasso's interactions with the press and like Trent Krim, the Independent, just stuff like that. I was like, this just feels so Ted Lasso-ish.
I saw a tweet. I don't know who put it out now, but it was a media member in Tampa.
I saw this. I liked it, so I feel like I can find it for us.
She was thanking Nick Sirianni for doing cross pollination, I guess you could call it, but doing interviews with the Buccaneers media, because it's not guaranteed. You don't have to do media with the opponent's media now, but he did it, and
I got it for you.
You got her? All right.
Yep. Many thanks to Eagles coach Nick Sirianni and the Eagles PR staff for taking the time to talk to Tampa Bay media today. Talking to opposing teams' media is no longer a requirement, and few teams have done it this year, but it is so helpful for us.
Yep. There you
Nick
go.
Sirianni, the real-life Ted Lasso.
Who's the real-life Nate?
Oh, that's a great question.
Hate Nate.
Oh, man.
Want to choke him.
Oh, yeah, what the hell? You know? He
Can't wait for, just out of nowhere for no reason.
I understand that the character archetype where he was ignored his entire life, and then he got a sliver of fame and he craved it, and then he was addicted to it. Now it sets them up to have a new villain for the next season. But geez, come on, man.
I know. Love him to start.
Mm-hmm.
Nate the Great.
Nate the Great. Hey, now Nate the hate.
Douche.
Yeah. On to American football.
Yes.
Eagles Bucks this week. My dad, God bless him, he always wants Brady. I was like, no, I want to play the Jags in the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? I was like, that's like playing the Rays instead of the Yankees in the World Series. It worked out way better. And he wants Brady, and he was so confident before any of the madness went down on Sunday with the Rams and the Cardinals and the Bucks. He was like, I want the Bucks. So God bless him. He just knows something at times. I don't trust anybody else when they want Tom Brady, but when he wants Tom Brady, I listen. So we got him.
I unfortunately think there's a shot in this one. I really do.
I do too. I really do too. The one thing, we obviously played earlier this year.
They played nobody.
Yeah. Who, us?
Yeah. So I'm like, I think they can do it. And then I'm like, all right, yeah, they've actually played no one.
Yes. So. I was watching this TikTok, and it was like a ship captain who must do like the big cargo ships, like a whole way across the sea. And he was showing like his perspective during the day and just guiding the ship. And then he showed it at night, and it's just like pitch black. And I was like, oh yeah, there's like no street lamps out there. It reminded me, it's like the Eagles. Like it's been daylight, it's been smooth sailing. We can see everything. Like the opponents, they're easy. So we've just been mowing them down. And like, oh shit, yeah, it gets like there's like good quarterbacks out there that we're gonna have to guide our way through.
But if there's a time to get them, it's now. I mean, AB went crazy. No Chris Godwin. You don't know what playoff Lenny's going to be coming off the injury. Evans has the hammy. So if you're going to play them, it's now, I feel like.
And when we played them the first time, we did not have Lane Johnson. We did not have Dallas Goddard. I think if anyone were going to choose X factors on this team, in terms of offense, you'd probably go those two people. There's that insane stat. This has been the case with Lane Johnson since Wentz's rookie season. They started 3-0. He got suspended for 10 games. Everything fell apart. He was healthy for the Super Bowl season. We won a Super Bowl. In 2018, when they struggled, he had an ankle. Last year, he didn't play. He had ankle surgery. They stunk. They win 2/3 of the games that he plays, and they win 1/3 of the games when he doesn't play.
That's the Cowboys' Tyron Smith.
Yep. It's that weird, for whatever reason it is, it just throws so much stuff off. It's the same for the Cowboys because they have to shift their offensive line. Same with the Eagles. So Mulata, who had never played right tackle in his life, had to move over and play right tackle for him because I think Jack Driscoll was playing on the inside too, or hurt. I forget which one. So, and Andre Dillard had to go to left tackle. It creates this shape shift that is no good. But he is healthy again and will be playing, and so will Dallas Goddard, who has, after that game, if you remember, Ertz caught his last touchdown on that Thursday Night Football game and then got traded that following week, and Goddard has been on a tear ever since.
You know, it's really interesting too, and I'm going to knock on wood, but it's Wednesday night, playoff week.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard a damn thing about people testing positive for COVID in the NFL.
Well,
it's funny how that.
Funny how. Well, that's because all of us, we all had COVID last week magically.
Yeah, except Micah last week.
Yeah, funny how we had all those people on the COVID list, and then the rest were on the inactive, and then everyone was cleared. The only person who cleared last week magically was Jason Kelsey, who played one snap and then came out of the game. But nobody else seemed to be able to clear in time. Oh,
crazy.
What a shame. But now everyone's cleared now.
Did you see Kelsey's face when the center went down for a little bit? He's like, I ain't fucking going in.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going back in.
No chance.
He was like, no shot. I'm going in the third quarter of this freezing cold game. Yeah, might have been a little game in the system there. I'm not gonna lie.
Just saying. And that's across the league, not just our teams. I had
Yeah, I agree.
The Cowboys had one today, and it was their tight ends coach.
Oh, well, that actually would suck if he gave it to like Blake Jarwin or Dustin Schultz.
Yeah,
that would be very bad. So those are I think are the playmakers that you got to watch on offense, obviously, and then on defense we touch on it with Evan in the interview, but linebackers being going against their tight ends and running backs, and just how good Brady is. I brought this up, but how good he is at those checkdowns in the flat and just never taking a negative play and turning it into a 2nd and 3 with the running backs and stuff like that. And the Eagles linebackers in coverage haven't been fantastic. Now they've improved as the season's gone along. TJ Edwards didn't really even play in that game against the Bucs. Now he's become one of their main options there at linebacker. And they struggled with the tight ends. So I think it'll be that way again. You know, on offense, I'm watching the offensive line with Lane Johnson. I think it'll be a lot better than what we've seen earlier in the season. And then obviously Goddard gives you another playmaker. But flip it around. Can these linebackers hold up against the tight ends and the running backs? That's what I'm looking for. And then lastly, in terms of playmakers, Derek Barnett. This could be it. This could be your last game as an Eagle. You want a new contract somewhere, or you want a new contract here. No better way than to have a huge game against possible league MVP Tom Brady. Get there a few times, and you're going to add some dollars to that contract this next year. Mm-hmm. Be pretty ironic if 2 minutes left in the game, and this time you get the strip sack. It's like the evolution of the world. It was Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett got the fumble. It would be great if Graham or if Barnett gets the strip sack and then Josh Sweat gets the fumble recovery. It's just a circle of just evolution.
Circle of bullshit.
But yeah, I feel a lot more confident than I do the first time I played the Bucs. That's for sure.
So are you taking them to win? Or are you taking them to cover? Or are you going in hopeful?
I'm definitely going in hopeful. I'm going in a lot more confident. I never guarantee wins. I definitely never guarantee wins against Tom Brady. No one's ever made money doing that. I think we can definitely cover the spread. I think it'll be similar to the game in the wild card round last year when they played Washington, and it was close, but the Bucs controlled. And the big difference here is maybe I think like we saw in the Georgia-Alabama game, it was just like you were just waiting for that big play to burst, and you could feel that momentum switch. The Eagles have to have that in the second half. Like a Jalen Hurts, a big play, make that momentum flip to your advantage, and the rest will be history. And that's how you pull that upset.
What do you think? What does Jalen Hurts' stat line need to look like to win this game?
I think he's got to throw for over 200 yards. Everyone talking, oh, they're so good at running the football. You know, they've been able to do it. That's what turned their season around. It's going to be a monsoon. It's going to rain.
Vita Vea.
I was about to say, they've got Vita Vea. And Dan Orlovsky pointed it out, an insightful analyst at ESPN who is always correct and very good at his job, no matter what people on Cowboys Twitter say. Mm-hmm. But he brought up, he was like,
always correct about Carson Wentz.
Listen, I can't do this. I can't do that part.
He had a 4. A 4 was his QBR this weekend. 4.
They were down 7-0 before he even touched the football. That team stinks. I want it on record that Frank Reich is a bad coach. Overrated. He is the problem, not Carson Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
He stinks.
4.
The defense stinks too.
4.
Colts, overrated. I feel bad for free Carson.
Back up by end of next year.
Ugh. No. Revenge tour next year.
Mm-hmm.
Full off season. We'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
We will ride again.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he was saying Vita Vea comes out of the game, go into a hurry up offense, keep him off the field, run. And then I totally agree. It'll get you in rhythm. And it's just not the same defense as it was. But I do think that Jalen Hurts needs to make plays with his arms. It can't just be a triple option Army versus Navy. You know, like you're going up against the greatest quarterback of all time. I know there's going to be rain, all that, but this is the playoffs. You have to make plays with your arms. There's going to be a moment where it's 3rd and 9. And it's like, if Brady gets the ball back, you could be in serious trouble and you need to convert. And that works both ways. Like that means Devontae Smith needs to get open for him and Dallas Goddard. Or even Quez Watkins needs to make a play and break a tackle like we saw last Sunday. But that's got to happen. He's got to throw for 200 plus yards.
Yep.
The running game can be great. He's still got to do it.
I agree.
That's it. I feel confident. So let's
right.
flip over to you.
I don't know if I feel as confident.
I was about to say, I don't think you feel as confident.
I don't know. I honestly go back and forth with this.
Me too.
At first, I was like, yes, this is the matchup I wanted. I definitely wanted to move up to the 3 seed because if they win, they're avoiding going to Lambeau. It's either you go to Tampa or you host the second round if the Eagles would win. So I was happy with that. I was also happy. I'd rather face Jimmy Garoppolo than Kyler Murray or Matt Stafford. I think Stafford would give this defense the ball a couple times probably.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Jimmy G can do that too. I think what the Dallas Cowboys defense needs to do is they need to make Jimmy Garoppolo play in this game, if that makes sense. Make him have to throw the ball. They need to stuff the run as much as possible. Obviously, they like to set the edge. The Niners like to play off the edge. So that's going to be a very fun matchup. I honestly think this is a fun matchup. Both sides of the ball, both teams.
This is my favorite matchup of the week.
Like, I can't wait to see how Micah plays in this. I can't. You talk about being able to earn some dollar signs heading into free agency. This is a game where Leighton Vander Esch has an opportunity. He's been playing better down the stretch. This is a game where he has an opportunity to make some money, whether it be with coming back to Dallas or heading to free agency, because he's going to sign somewhere. He's going to end up somewhere like, I don't know, Carolina or Chicago. So make that money. Stop the run. What the defense needs to do, too, is trust their eyes. Don't get all bogged up with the motion and the twists and the boots and the waggles. You need to trust your eyes and just play. That's what I love about Micah in this game, because that's how he plays. Right? You've talked about it since before the season starts. Just that instinct that he has.
Mm-hmm. It's not. There's a lot of guys that are fast. He is fast and knows and trusts his instinct.
Yep.
It's that combination that makes him lethal.
And sometimes he doesn't even need to trust them. It just happens. I don't think he even realizes.
I was about to say, he doesn't even realize. He's just there. Mm-hmm. I've never seen anything quite like it, and that's why he's going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Still, I think the 17-0 comeback was the worst thing to happen to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Because I believed in this 49ers team the whole year. And I think there was a somewhat belief in them, but it's like, yeah, they have to get out to a 10-0 lead and then just run the ball down your throat and have 7-minute drives. And they were down, like, literally, like, Saints are up by 15. They're down 17. Yep. There's 30 minutes left of football or their season's over. And they pull off that comeback, and it's like Jimmy G makes all the throws. And they come out in the second half and just absolutely skull fuck a really good Rams defense and just have an 8-minute drive where they knew they were running it and just jam it down their throat, and then score the minute and a half left to put the game into overtime and then get down the field again. Like, confidence wise, this has to be the most confident all year that you probably have been in that locker room, in that offense.
Yeah. And that's what scares me. And that's why guys like Neville Gallimore and Osa Digizua and DeMarcus Lawrence need to step up against the run. DeMarcus Lawrence is a phenomenal run defender. He doesn't get nearly enough credit of how good he is against the run. So those guys are going to have to play absolutely lights out to be able to stop this freight train that is the 49ers offense. And that's what they are. They're a freight train. A freight train that can also look like a sports car sometimes. The way it just, the shifts and the pre-snap motion is just, I mean, Kyle Shanahan's a wizard when it comes to that kind of stuff. So getting off the field on third down is going to be key for this defense. They were one of the best third down defenses all season long of getting off the field, but then they ran into Arizona, and I think they let them convert like 60%. So Kyler was a big part of that, running his legs. Obviously, Jimmy G's not that type of player. So, like we talk about it in the interview with Chase, the Trent Williams injury is massive in this matchup for the offense versus the defense. Because if he's not in this game, or if he does play and he's at 75% with his elbow, that's going to be in Jimmy G's head, knowing his blind side's not fully protected. And there's guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory, and Micah Parsons screaming after him, coming from the blind side.
Yeah, and that's kind of the key to beating them is you may be confident in Jimmy G like we just talked about, but you got to get them in those 3rd and 9s and not 2nd and 2 because Elijah Mitchell is running behind that offensive line and they're doing those pitches, that they do. I love that pitch play they do where it doesn't go to an angle. They just turn and pitch it. They're the only offense I've seen that does it. That. But you're totally right. It's got to be forcing the game into Jimmy G making big throws on 3rd and long. And if that's the case, that plays right into the Cowboys' strength of getting to the quarterback.
Yep. And if Trent Williams is not there, or like I said, if he's 75% on those passing plays, they're probably going to have George Kittle there too in blocking because he is a good blocker too. So then that takes him away from his route running on those 3rd and longs. So that's massive. It's a massive injury. And Trent, painkillers aren't good for you. So you might want to just protect your body, sit this one out. You don't want to get shot up and do all that stuff. It's not good for you.
Tell that to the kids in Euphoria. Jesus Christ.
Just take care of yourself, okay?
My God.
All right, let me shift over to the offense. Dak Prescott needs to win this goddamn game.
Yeah, this would not go well legacy-wise. To lose to Jimmy Garoppolo at home after the entire year being said like you're a Super Bowl contender, this would not go well.
Especially after, the game against the Eagles where he's running off the field, winks at the media and says the real shit starts now. And Mike McCarthy talking to the media being like, how about that slump, hey? Like, no.
Yeah, which, come on.
He was in a slump.
I follow this team quite frequently. I did not know the names of the people playing defense for us on Saturday.
Well, I'm okay. Like, if that gave him confidence and that gave the wide receivers confidence, and I don't give a shit. Like, let Cedric Ball out. Let Ito Smith. Also, shout out to the Cowboys. 22 different players scored a touchdown this season. NFL record. The New York Giants only scored 23 total touchdowns all season.
All right, beat Joe Judge.
Tony and Galladay, 0 touchdowns between the two of them.
Unbelievable.
And it's unbelievable that they tweeted out how many touchdowns is this guy going to have this year.
Yeah.
0. The answer is 0.
Backfire. All-time backfire. Man, they have less salary cap space than we do. That's not even possible.
Oh God, I can't wait to see them screw this up too.
Oh, man. At least they have 2 first-round picks.
I hope they hired Gannon.
Yeah, me too.
He's getting interviews.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
go.
I've missed. This is one of those things. I'm looking around like, you ever take math tests? You're like,
yep.
Why does everyone's answer look different than mine?
Who put these letters in math anyway?
Yeah. That's how we feel with Gannon. Like, wait, why does everybody think this guy's impressive? Like, what are we're doing something wrong.
Like this. Like, did I don't know.
I don't think I'm doing this right. Yeah.
So Dak Prescott needs to have a monster game. And I think he can against this defense. If the offensive line can hold up. against Nick Bosa and the defensive line, if they can protect him, if the running game can be average, okay? And that means give Tony Pollard more touches than Ezekiel Elliott.
Yes.
Okay. You probably don't remember this, but when the Cowboys years ago, they had Marion Barber and Julius Jones.
Oh yeah.
Julius Jones was the number one, and then Marion Barber would come in the fourth quarter and kind of be the closer. But then when but you could clearly see that he was the better running back all season long. And then the playoffs came and they're like, okay, Marion Barber's getting the lion's share of the touches here. So I'm hoping maybe the Cowboys see that and do that with Tony Pollard. He had the week off. He didn't play against the Eagles. He's rested. He's fresh. Get 20 involved. And if the running game and that play action game, which is very crucial for this offense, can get things humming, I think with these receivers, especially CeeDee Lamb, they can beat this San Francisco team deep. So I'm hoping they take shots, and they take shots early in this game.
They're an aggressive bunch, so maybe you can get them a few times. I think what they're really good at is gang tackling, swarming towards the ball. They can get pressure on the quarterback too. So like you said, take some shots, spread them out, and see what you can do.
Yep. And I mean, penalties can't happen on this team. I mean, how many times this season, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, you convert, flag, holding, 3rd and 17, 3rd and 18, drives dead.
Oh yeah, that's a big time playoff thing.
You can't have that. I think the Cowboys are going to need points, and I don't care if it's 3 or 6 on almost every drive in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, because the 49ers have a propensity to have really long, like 6-7 minute drives.
And they're
capitalized.
They're going to want to try and limit this high-powered Cowboys offense to 9, 8 possessions. If they do that, you need points on every drive. Greg Zuerlein, I'm looking at you.
Man, that I love the I saw a quote about how he got like hurt in May or something.
Yeah, and they were talking.
That's what got him out of his rhythm. I'm like, I don't know, maybe you should have thought of that like in May.
You know what's so which I hate, he's had so many big kicks this year, and kicks to win the game. He had the kick in the first game of the season to take the lead in Tampa, and long 54-yard field goals. So it's he's won games for this team this year, but then he just misses extra points. I think he had the second most missed extra points this season behind Mason Crosby. It's just the gimmies. What are we doing?
Potential second round matchup. What could go wrong?
Let's have a kickoff in overtime.
Yeah.
So I think Dak Prescott has the ability to win this game. He needs to outplay Jimmy Garoppolo. I am more fearful of the San Francisco offense, I think, than I am the defense. Not saying the defense is not good. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, they're studs. But I feel like the Cowboys have the advantage at wide receiver on their cornerbacks. It's just Kellen Moore. Are we going to get the ball to the wide receivers?
Maybe.
Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, they're pretty good.
I saw something that I actually believe this. He's doing the interview rounds just like Dan Quinn. And if you want one of those head coaching positions, you better put your best foot forward here on Sunday. Hey. So you're going to see some trickery, and better get them involved if you would like a head coaching job.
And there's been this conspiracy theory portion of the Dallas Cowboys fan base that during the slump, Kellen Moore's just been sandbagging and just hiding all of his good plays until the playoffs. So the playoffs are here. The real shit starts now. So surprise, here we are. We're good again.
We'll see.
It's funny because Brian Broaddus, who I always talk about, he talks on the radio. He literally has a Super Bowl ring being an NFL scout. He's phenomenal at this. And he's like, if they're hiding all their good plays, then why aren't they good at base offense right now? They're not even good at that. So I don't understand. So yeah. It's just, so we'll see. The 3 points scares me. It scares me that it hasn't moved at all. It's continuously, I believe, still sitting at 3 right now. Let me check. But as soon as I saw that line, I was like, yep, that's a San Francisco line.
I really like this Niners team. I really like them.
Yep, still sitting at 3. I could see it getting down to 2.5 too once kickoff comes.
Possibly. And another thing, in terms of just like swinging this game, Deebo Samuel might be the best player in the league at turning 10 yards into 60 yards in a hurry.
Yes. And it's going to be interesting how they play it. Like some people have asked, do you think they're going to shadow him with Trayvon Diggs? I don't think so. You can't, because then when he's in the back, it's going to confuse the whole defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like now he's in the backfield. Micah's got him, this and that. It's just you can't.
He threw a touchdown pass last week
literally
on an end around. Like you just can't shadow him because he lines up everywhere.
Yep.
He had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown, and also, had 90 receiving yards.
Scares the shit out of me. Flat.
I love him.
Yeah, no, I do too. I love him every day of the week except for this Sunday.
Yep, correct.
All right, so those were our breakdowns. You want to get into these interviews? Run them back to back?
Let's do it. Double dip on the interviews tonight. Like we said, we've got Evan Winter coming up first of SI, Buccaneers on SI. We had a great conversation about the game. We also forgot to mention some untold stories of the Antonio Brown saga and everything that happened there. He's got some inside information as a credentialed member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers media. That was a great story. Also a funny story there as well. So listen for that. And then obviously after that, we're going to transition to Chase Sr. You've heard him on the show before. He's fantastic covering the NFL and the 49ers specifically for Chat Sports. So we cut it up with him as well. So here it is, starting first with our interview with Evan Winter of Buccaneers on SI. All right. We all know the deal. Eagles in Tampa Bay this weekend for the playoffs. So now we bring on Evan Winter of Buccaneers on Sports Illustrated. Behind enemy lines, we are getting the report. Evan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. Hope everything's okay on your end.
Great on my end. Happy to be in the playoffs. I know you guys are probably streamlining towards the Super Bowl, but some of us, we're happy that we made the dance.
Well, hey, there's a lot of trauma and a lot of PTSD when it comes to the Buccaneers over the years, even with the Super Bowl last year. So, yeah, while, there's that sense of pride, that, that sense of belonging in the postseason that comes with the 13-4 record and number 2 overall seed, at the end of the day, I think you can say a lot of Bucs fans and a lot of Bucs players in general are still just happy to be there.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Like you always have those scars from the past. Like I know Philly has some against Tampa in the NFC Championship. So,
right.
Sometimes you're just happy to be there and enjoy the moment and appreciate it.
And it's always great to still be talking about meaningful football in January and not the draft or free agency. So there's that.
We were talking about that last week. So as you know, the concept of the show, Birds versus Boys. So my co-host Kevin is a Cowboys fan. So last year we were talking about the draft at about Thanksgiving. So it's great to be here talking like actual meaningful football. So let's hop into the meaningful football. Eagles, Bucs this weekend. I'll start by giving a secret about the Eagles. I think our biggest weakness on defense is probably the linebacker play and the linebackers in coverage. I think Tom Brady has the propensity to kind of exploit that weakness. So what's the status of Leonard Fournette? Do we think he's going to play? And do you think Tom Brady is going to take advantage of that weakness this weekend?
So, yeah, starting with the second part of the question, that's honestly the area of the defense that I've been pinpointing in my studies of the Eagles as well. Even O.J. Howard, who has been non-existent this year, essentially had his best game of the season against the Eagles. I think 4 catches for 49 yards and a touchdown back in week 6. They obviously have issues defending the pass over the middle. Gronk is back. Gronk is Gronk. I'm not saying he's 2016 or 2015 Gronk, but I mean, the dude just looks incredible out there, dominating over the middle. Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be something that the Bucs try to target in this game, especially with Chris Godwin not being in the game. Chris Godwin just does so much, especially over the middle, but he also does a lot on the perimeter that a lot of people don't realize. And there's no fault in that because his game is built on the inside in the slot. But regardless, yeah, I really think that Tampa Bay is going to try to take advantage of Gronk, take advantage of the linebackers over the middle. And I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question? I lost myself in my own answer.
Oh yeah, well no, it was great, and it scares me a little bit that you were like, "Yep, that's exactly what I pinpointed too." But Leonard Fournette kind of taking advantage of that out of the backfield.
Yeah, so Bruce Arians said on Monday that Leonard Fournette and Shaquille Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul should all be back for this game. Now, obviously, injury reports haven't come out yet. We'll get a little bit better insight whenever those come out tomorrow on Wednesday. But right now, I would think so. And this is obviously just pure speculation on my part, but I think a little bit of a hint was provided today when the Buccaneers placed Richard Sherman on IR. He's officially done for the year because he went on short-term IR a few weeks back in the season. And I mean, it needed to happen. He just is not healthy. He can't play. But at the same time, the Bucs are trying to figure out who they need to get rid of, for lack of a better phrase, in order to open up these roster spots for Leonard Fournette when he comes back on IR or from IR, and for Levante David even, who's probably not going to play this week, but he should return hopefully before the Super Bowl if the Bucs get that far. So, yeah, I think Leonard Fournette's going to play this week.
Gotcha. Yeah, I figured that timing kind of worked out well in his favor, where it would line up where he'd be back in time for the playoffs. Missed the fantasy playoffs for a lot of people who were concerned, but in time for the real thing. So I think
and they need him. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, obviously he's only, played in 2 games, but he's been pretty impactful. His first game, he had 3 catches for 30 yards. 2 of them were third down conversions. One of them was even a 3rd and 10. The other one, I think, was like a 3rd and 7, something like that. But he's played okay, but he's obviously not the lead guy. Keyshawn Vaughn is a good complementary piece, but, Ronald Jones isn't going to be playing in this game. There's a chance he might, but I highly, highly doubt it. But either way, they need Fournette back, especially with what he does in that short passing game.
Yeah, need the bell cow. All right, let's flip it to the other side of the ball. Eagles on offense, Bucs on defense. I read your article today about how the Bucs had some work to do going into the playoffs, and you said especially quote unquote alarmingly bad execution on defense. Do you think that the Eagles have enough dynamic playmakers to take advantage of that bad execution on defense by the Bucs?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it starts up front with the offensive line. The Eagles' offensive line, even though, a couple of the main core pieces in Jason, Kelsey, and Lane Johnson are getting a little bit up there in the years, they're still effective. They're still one of the best starting fives in the league. And it's because of not only their physicality and their size and their strength, but it's because of their athleticism. Like the Eagles and the 49ers, they remind me a lot of what each other likes to do when it comes to their run game. And the alarmingly bad execution on defense that I was referring to has been these last 2 weeks against piss poor offenses in the Jets and the Panthers, and how they've beaten the Bucs on defense is with the perimeter runs, the zone runs, the counters, the sweeps, the reverse sweeps. We can go on with all the terminology, but yeah, it all starts up front with the Eagles. And secondly, it's Dallas Goddard, man. The dude's a problem. He is a major problem. And for some reason, ever since Todd Bowles arrived in 2019, Tampa Bay has not been able to stop tight ends. And it's clear that Goddard is the main passing threat on this team ever since the Zach Ertz trade. I mean, he leads the team with 614 receiving yards since week 7. I've got some numbers. I was doing some research real quick. Since week 7 to 18, over 10 games since Ertz was traded, 5.7 targets a game, 4.1 receptions a game, 61.4 yards, which is 5th most among tight ends in the NFL. He's number 1 in EPA per target amongst tight ends with at least 29 receptions during that time span, 2.9 yards per route run, which is 2nd most amongst tight ends. I mean, he's absolutely killing it. And like I said, Levante David is probably not going to be in this game. It's going to be interesting to see how the Bucs are able to cover him because he's going to have a big game. I'm just going to go ahead and say
that. All right. That's what I like to hear. That gives me some hope here. And it's funny in your answer. So you touched on 2 players for the Eagles, Lane Johnson and Dallas Goedert. And in week 6, the Eagles didn't have Lane Johnson and Dallas Goedert. Yep. So that's what, from my point of view, I'm like, all right, maybe I should feel more confident going into this game because we have those 2 guys this time.
Yeah, no, it's going to be huge. And, the Bucks don't know what the Eagles offense looks like with those two guys, or at least they don't know what it looks like in terms of playing them on the field. Granted, Tampa Bay's got a couple guys back, and Rob Gronkowski, Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy Bunting, Antoine Winfield, those guys didn't play, but they're also missing Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Levante David. So it's going to be interesting, man. These teams are definitely, kind of one of the main talking points this week has been how these are two completely different teams than the teams that met back in week 6. And that's 100% true in my opinion. I mean, it's going to be an interesting game, see how everything plays out.
Yeah, it's just crazy. The NFL schedule, that was only 3 months ago. It kind of almost feels like 3 years ago.
Oh, it totally feels like 3 years ago. I was in Wyoming whenever that game happened. So I was on vacation. So yeah, and that in itself feels like 3 years ago. So yeah, it's crazy, man.
Right. It's crazy how time flies. So I'm aware that, Eagles are 8-point underdogs. This could be it for us. I'm hopeful that we win the game, though. I'm aware that the Bucks could make another Super Bowl run, though, after this game if they do win. You touched on Chris Godwin. I'm a huge fan. We're from a Penn State area, so we've loved him. So say the Bucks move on. They win this game. They're on another Super Bowl run. What's the confidence level in the receiver core right now? They still have Mike Evans. They still got Gronk. Scotty Miller's made plays in the past. Or are we a little bit worried without Godwin and without AB?
Yeah, I mean, it's natural to be worried without those two. I mean, they're two of the best players at their position. And Godwin, honestly, his role on this offense is arguably the second most important role on the team, not counting quarterback. So, set quarterback aside by default, and Godwin's role is honestly probably the most important on the team in terms of what he does for the offense, not just in the passing game, but the run blocking game. So yeah, there's definitely logical reasons to be concerned about those two guys, but the equalizer is Tom Brady and the Bucs offensive line. Starting five has been together, for 2 years now straight. Ali Marpet's the only one who has missed some time. I think he's missed 4 games in the last 2 years. But either way, a very cohesive unit. And you've got guys like Tyler Johnson, who's made plays. You've got Cyril Grayson, who has just been a stud over these last few weeks, but he got hurt last week against Carolina, and we don't really know what's going to happen with him this week. And like you said, Scotty Miller, who's a deep threat. But a guy like Jalen Darden, the Bucs rookie 4th-round pick, he's going to have to step up. He's going to have to make some plays. He's been pretty non-existent. He's made a couple plays in the return game this year, but overall, not really what was expected from him coming in, just due to his skill set. But yeah, no, there's definitely a reason to be worried, especially with how well the Eagles secondary is playing. I mean, Jonathan Gannon's got him playing well. And plus you got Anthony Harris back there, who I think is one of the most underrated safeties in the league. You got Darius Slay. Don't even need to say any more about that. But then Avonte Maddox is playing like the Eagles thought when they initially took him. And then Steve Nelson's been pretty good for a stopgap. So, they're going to, and Slay's going to follow Evans. So somebody's going to have to step up and make a play, because Mike Evans, obviously with one of the league's best corners, isn't going to be able to do it all on his own.
Yeah. And I think that was the key last year, is just those guys, those diamond in the rough guys kind of stepping up and making plays for Tampa on the way. Like Scotty Miller up in the NFC Championship against the Packers. So I kind of expect some of the same. We'll stay with the wide receivers for a second, because I guess we have to talk about it. The Antonio Brown saga.
Oh, yeah.
From a common folk outsider perspective, that sideline outburst was shocking. But as someone who covers a team on a day-to-day basis, did you have a sense that frustrations were kind of boiling over between him and the team before that happened?
Well, I don't know necessarily between him and the team, but you could tell something was up with him before that happened. It all started the day the Bucs activated him and said that they were going to stick by him. He, in usual AB fashion, let off all these weird tweets, put some respect on my name. You better treat people right, because you never know when you're going to need them. And then in the post-game press conference that just to let your audience know, I'm a credentialed writer for the Bucs, so I get to go into press conferences and all that stuff. Well, I was sitting in on that press conference for the post game from the Week 16 against the Panthers, and Jenna Lane of ESPN. I mean, I'm sure y'all have seen the exchange. She starts at, and the weirdest part about that whole entire exchange between him and Jenna Lane, where he's like, next question, blah blah blah. Lane was actually asking him what it felt like to have Bruce Arians stick up for him. She wasn't even asking him about the suspension or anything like that. She was literally trying to put a positive spin on the situation and, just get Antonio's thoughts on how he felt about Bruce Arians sticking up for him and getting just made look like a total fool. And he cuts her off, starts interrupting, just doing his thing. And then Joey Knight from the Tampa Bay Times, he follows up a couple questions later with asking, what was wrong? Because it was never really defined if it was his heel, his ankle, what was really going on with his injury. And AB goes, Joey asks, hey, so, what was up? Was it your heel, your ankle? What was it? And he goes, it was a lot of drama, man. Just a lot of drama y'all all started. So just you could tell he was zoned in on a certain talking point, on a certain narrative. And then, the whole thing the following week just completely blew up. So there was definitely some signs that something was going to happen or about to happen. It definitely came a lot quicker than I anticipated. But, there were signs. Now, but when it comes between strife with him and the team, I don't have sources or anything like that, so I'm not entirely sure. But obviously I can offer speculation. I would think that things for the most part between them were okay before that game.
So you think even that press conference, it was kind of premeditated where they weren't even asking about vaccine card, the injury or rehab. They were just kind of trying to, where's the team camaraderie at? Like they seem to stick up for you. Is this a good thing? Like almost not a softball, but just like, hey, it's all kumbaya here. Yeah. And he kind of already had those answers in his head that this was going to be a bit of a controversy.
Yeah, definitely. And, the most ironic part is, Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times, who initially broke the fake vaccine story, he's always the first guy. He's like the installed reporter, the number one guy. He always goes first. And as soon as I see Antonio Brown come on the screen, I'm just like, oh, God, this is going to get so interesting because, I know Rick's going first. And Rick didn't even ask him. Rick just asked him, hey, how's it feel to come back from the injury, to lead the team in receptions and receiving yards, blah, blah, blah. And and Antonio, 2 words was, it felt good or something like that, so you could tell like he just was already on a mission. He was just coming up with this war against the media, even though it's not the media's fault. He didn't pay his chef the $10,000 he owed him. But regardless, they were pretty benign questions. They were pretty innocuous questions. And he just took it to a whole different level, man.
Wow. I think this will be not breaking news for our listeners, but I did not know a lot of that. You've seen the clip of him just being like, next question, you created drama. You didn't really know the backstory, what was going on. And then we see that blow up on the sideline. So a lot of that's new to me and the outsiders and the listeners. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, man, it was really weird. And like, it's funny because they called on me last to ask my question. And I'm just kind of like, I'm never scared to ask the tough question, but everything was pretty much covered at that point. So there was really nothing more for me to ask. I'm just like, hey man, how'd it feel to be a number 1 receiver again with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin now? And even then to my question, he was just kind of off about it. And I don't know, it's just weird, man. Like the guy is just, he's something else. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. That's like when you're little and like the whole class has show and tell or like your dad comes in for parent day and they're like a race car driver, then you gotta go next and you're like, oh man, like what do I do?
My dad works at Walmart.
Yeah, my dad does accounting. Oh, my dad's an astronaut, and you have to follow that up.
And no offense to people of Walmart. Hey, I'm just saying, just had to throw that in there.
It's all good, but yeah, wow, that's a tough spot to be in. That's funny.
Yeah, but hey, it's part of the job, and honestly, it's part of the fun too. I mean, because like as media, I know there's this perception out there that we like to start stuff, and like we like to sink our teeth into the meat, and if it bleeds, it leads, and all this stuff. And while that is true to a degree, I can promise you 75-80% of like honest media, we're not here to start stuff, but at the end of the day, you gotta take stuff like that in stride, and you got to figure out a way to still ask your questions, still get good responses, and it's all part of the fun.
Yeah, and I'm assuming not just that Antonio Brown drama, but just in general. Is this the busiest you've ever been? Tom Brady there as a player
Oh,
on the
easily.
team,
Yeah,
Super Bowl run, Super Bowl
easily.
follow up, all this that goes on.
Yeah. So I just started covering the Bucks in 2018. I've been a fan, and obviously I keep my fan separate from my work. But I've been a fan since '96.
Wow.
But I've been covering the team since 2018. So I had the last year of Dirk Cutter, and then the last year of Jameis Winston / first year of Bruce Arians, which 12 wins combined in those 2 years. And then, I mean, things have just ramped up like crazy ever since the Bucks announced the signing of Brady, which, understandably they should.
Yeah, which honestly, this is the golden age, I'm
Oh, yeah.
sure. Clicks,
It's
views,
great, man.
everything.
It's been a hell of a ride, man. That's for sure.
Great. All right. Last one for me. I'm not a huge fan of the score prediction, but give me a prediction on how you think the game flow will go. How do you see this game kind of playing out as we go through it?
It's really hard to put a finger on it right now because the Eagles, even though they have an identity, right? You know what you're getting out of them on offense and defense. They're going to rush the four defensive linemen, mostly drop guys back in coverage. They'll disguise from time to time, mostly on third down. And then on offense, you've got the smash mouth football, running it, RPOs, Jalen Hurts, all that stuff. The defense had that incredible stretch of, over the 7-2 over during the 9 games before Dallas. But if you look at the quarterbacks they played, it reminded me a lot of the Dolphins whenever the Dolphins went on their 7-8 game win streak and they just didn't play anybody impressive. I mean, for God's sakes, the Eagles played Garrett Gilbert at one point at quarterback, So, I mean, like, it's hard to really – so going into the Dallas game, I was like, okay, well, let's see how they do against Dallas. Obviously, we saw how that happened, but – they were missing a lot of starters on the defensive side of the ball. So I really don't have a firm read on this team coming in. Now, obviously, I don't cover them like y'all, so that also adds into the equation. But when it comes to Tampa Bay, man, these last 2 games against the Jets and the Panthers, there's a lot to worry about. Not just in terms of how the games played out, but you got to factor in the level of opponent and how the Panthers – were pretty much being able to do whatever they want to do in the first half on offense, and the Jets did pretty much whatever they wanted to do on offense throughout the entire game. I mean, both games came down to 4th and 1 stops inside the 5-yard line. So I want to say the Bucs are going to win. I do think they're going to win. I think the Eagles not having a lot of playoff experience in key spots like quarterback and head coach. I know Nick Sirianni went with the Colts a couple times to the playoffs. But as head coach, it's a completely different animal. So I think that's going to really help at the end, but I am not going to be surprised, first off, if the Eagles cover, because I think the spread is pretty high right now. And honestly, I won't be surprised if it takes some Tom Brady heroics late in the 4th quarter to pull out a Bucs win.
I agree with you. I could see it being pretty close, maybe similar to the Washington football game against Tampa,
right?
In the opening round last year, where that it felt like the Bucs had control, they won, but it was close that entire time.
For sure.
But obviously, I'm hoping that we get to the point where the Eagles, Tom Brady needs some late game heroics, and we get another strip sack like the Super Bowl. I think that's what we're all hoping for around here.
Yeah, man, for sure. And I mean, and there's definitely a chance. This is not like just some David and Goliath matchup. And honestly, it's going to come down to the trenches at the end of the day. It's going to come down, and I know the Eagles pass rush, their front 4 isn't really that great. I think they're like 5th lowest adjusted sack rate. They're like 31st in total sacks or something, but you've got Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave on the inside, and we know how much interior pressure affects Brady. To counteract that, though, the Bucs have 3 very good interior offensive linemen, and I think this might be my X factor on the Eagles defense, is Milton Williams. I love that kid coming out of college. He's played really well over these last 4 or 5 weeks. If he can get in there and get some kind of rotation going with him and Cox and Hargrave, and then Josh Sweat, who just looked excellent against the Redskins a couple weeks ago. I mean, they could come alive in this game. And like I said, though, earlier, Tampa Bay's offensive line is really good, and that's kind of a big equalizer in this game. But, you come through with a few sacks in this game, you end a couple drives, and then reverse that on the other side for the Bucs, shut down the running game, get Hurts under pressure, make sure you get him down too. Don't let him escape the pocket, make those off-schedule plays. And that's going to determine this game for sure, in my opinion.
Honestly, we're going to record our portion tomorrow. Kevin and I talking about the games and previewing, and I had written down our defensive line getting that pressure up front. So I totally agree with you that could be an X factor. All I know is this: I think it'll be a lot different than Week 6. Yep. Whether that's good, whether that's bad, I don't know. I just think it'll be a totally different game than what we saw. So it should be fun. All right, Evan, before we let you go, just let everyone know where they can follow you, where they can read you, everything like that.
Yeah, so check me out on Twitter at Evan_winner. Check me out on allbucks.com and that Sports Illustrated's Tampa Bay Buccaneers site. We've got a Twitter account as well. It's at SI Buccaneers. And then if you ever get bored and want to read about Tennessee Volunteers, I also write for SB Nation's RockyTopTalk.com. So you can check me out there as well.
Final question. Should Tennessee have beat Purdue? Did they blow the whistle too soon? Should that have been a touchdown?
Hell yes, they blew it too soon. Hell yes. Why in God's name are you? It's overtime. It's 4th down. It's on the 1-yard line. The guy is fighting for the yard. Why the hell are you going to blow the whistle in that sense? No other referee. Like, I can't remember what game it was in the NFL. I want to say maybe it was the Jets-Bucks game. That's exactly what it was. That following week, Ty Johnson was on the 1-yard line and was fighting for those extra yards, churning his legs. Guess what the refs didn't do? They didn't blow the damn whistle. So, I mean, like, in that, like, I get it, forward progress, all that stuff. You want to player safety, all that crap. But in that specific moment, you don't blow that whistle. It was a touchdown. The Vols got screwed. And honestly, when they go to the Music City Bowl, they always get screwed. I was at the game in 2010 whenever North Carolina lined up for the game-winning field goal. They missed it, but they got called for 12 guys on the field. So it moved them back 5 yards. They kick it and won after. So it's just like, oh my God, how does this happen? So that's some of the pain and heartbreak of being a Vols fan.
Oh, yeah. And I agree. Just we can review everything in the world, but on that play, like, can't review when the whistle sound and compare it to when the ball crossed the goal line. It's like, what's the point of all these cameras if we can't do that? It's insane.
Travesty, man. Just start putting GPS trackers and everything and just let the computers run the show. Get these zebras out of here, man. I'm over it.
100%. Hopefully that's not foreshadowing for this weekend. I appreciate you coming on with us. Like Kevin said, maybe if the Bucks win, if we have a Bucks Cowboys game, we'll have to have you back on then. But for the time being, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, one of us will be standing next week, so there's something fun about that.
There you go. Absolutely. All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Aidan.
Yep.
All right, Aidan, let's transition from your interview with Evan about the Bucks-Eagles matchup this weekend into the Cowboys and the 49ers. And we are once again joined by one of our good friends, Chase Sr. from Chat Sports, who is absolutely killing it down in Dallas. He covers the 49ers for Chat Sports, as well as being an Eagles fan somewhat. So I pain him 2 ways this weekend. But how you doing? What's going on, Chase? Welcome back.
Homies, what it do? Happy to be on. You guys are killing it as well. You're kind of going around the Chat Sports offices. You got Tom Downey on a couple weeks ago. Now back to me. Love to see it.
We go to the best. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
right
if you say so. If you say so.
All right, let's dive right into this matchup. So a lot of people in Cowboys land last weekend were like, everything fell perfectly for the Cowboys. They moved up to the 3 seed. People are saying that the Niners matchup is the best for the Cowboys because Jimmy G is, quote unquote, the worst quarterback out of the quarterbacks that they could have faced. I think it's actually somewhat of a nightmare matchup for the Dallas Cowboys, but what do you think about the matchup for both these teams?
I think it's a bad matchup for Dallas for a couple of reasons. San Francisco is hot. They've won 7 of their last 9. You look at their bread and butter, their strengths offensively, it's running the football, and Dallas is 16th against the run. Defensively, they have a terrible secondary, but they've been able to escape and survive considering their weak secondary play with a really good defensive line, and they generate pressure on the quarterback. And if Dak Prescott doesn't have opportunities to survey the field, go through his progressions, and light up opposing defenses with a bevy of weapons in Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, he's a different quarterback, and the Cowboys offense is a different offense. And then you look at the coaching matchup. I'd honestly rather have Kyle Shanahan over Mike McCarthy Dan Quinn is a great defensive coordinator, but when it comes to game management, Mike McCarthy's been bad not just throughout his tenure in Dallas. He's been bad at game management throughout his entire head coaching career. And then lastly, the Cowboys are where they're at right now because they went undefeated against a weak NFC East. The 49ers, on the other hand, won 10 games in a gauntlet of a division that I believe might be the best and most competitive. And then there's also the kind of the Georgia-Alabama factor, right? Georgia was finally able to overcome its playoff shortcomings, its big game shortcomings, and they were able to get past the beast in Alabama. But Kirby Smart even mentioned this after the game, after they finally pulled out the win. He said, we've had so many losses against Alabama, they were in our heads. And for Dallas, the lack of playoff success is in their heads. And if the Niners go up early in this game, the pressure is going to get ratcheted up. I think the Cowboys, in previous years, they've obviously been a team that has kind of clenched and gotten tight in big moments. And if that happens again, you're going to hear the air out of that stadium. And then, Kev, like you made a good point in saying, I worry that AT&T Stadium is going to be littered with the scarlet, red, and gold. And because it's a playoff game, maybe not as much as a regular season game, but I will say this, the Niners, like the Eagles, like the Steelers, some of the best traveling fans in the country, in the league, and it's a national fan base. So even if fans aren't going to travel to the Dallas area from the Bay Area, a lot of people who lived in San Francisco or in the area on the West Coast might live in Texas now, especially over the last year and a half with all the crazy COVID madness. So,
yeah, it's true. I've been listening to 105.3, and they're like, there is so many displaced people from California living here now that there's and it's a whiteout, which scares me even more because maybe they should have done like a blue out because with a whiteout, the red's just going to stand out even more.
It's going to pop. It's going to pop. Yeah.
Oh, God, it scares me. All right. So you mentioned Kyle Shanahan and Dan Quinn, and there's a lot of talk about the two of them, obviously, in this game because they were together in Atlanta, brought the team to the Super Bowl, 28-3. We don't need to talk about it. Do you think that one has the advantage over the other in this matchup, or do you think there really isn't much to that because both of them have changed since they were coaching with each other?
I do think both of them have changed. I also think those changes have happened within this season, and I think it's really, really impressive. Now, for Quinn, his impact has more so been season long. We're talking last year about, honestly, like one of the worst defenses in the history of the NFL, and this year he's made it one of the best. So he's been really great this year, and that's why he has multiple head coaching opportunities and interviews set up for himself, which is great because the way that things ended in Atlanta, it was ugly, but he won a lot of games there when they were humming. And then for Kyle, they got off to a 3-5 start. And going into this year, year 5, he'd only made it to the playoffs one time. And now a lot of factors for that, a lot of injuries. Jimmy Garoppolo has been injured a ton. But how many coaches in year 5 last if they make the playoffs 1 year out of 5? Not many. But to Shanahan's credit, he kept the locker room together. They never really gave up on him. And look, that might sound corny, but we see this happen all the time. And for them to overcome a 3-5 start and then to finish 7-2 is impressive with a lot of big wins along the way. They needed to take down the Rams twice. They did. I think the Rams are one of the best teams in the NFL. Absolutely. Week 18, they're down 17-0 on the road, and they don't hit the panic button in a must-win game, and they come back and win that. They beat the Vikings when they had to. They beat the Texans with a backup in Trey Lance, who, played really well in the second half of that game. So I think that's a matchup that is entertaining. It's fun to talk about, and it's going to be worth monitoring because there's also this, like Shanahan in his previous years as an OC, as a head coach, has struggled against good defensive coordinators. I mean, Pete Carroll has straight up owned him. Mike Vrabel shut the Niners offense down after a couple of good drives to start the game back a few weeks ago on Thursday Night Football. So Shanahan, while a lot of people like to call him an offensive wizard, and at times he has been, he has struggled against good defenses, physical defenses, and defenses led by good defensive coordinators.
Let's shift from the coaching matchups to some of the individual player matchups. So George Kittle, we know he's a beast, But lately it's been kind of a struggle to get him involved. I know last week he had 5 receptions, but it was only for 10 yards, only 1 reception a week before that, and then 2 the week before that. Do you think it'll be a point of emphasis to get him involved early and often against Dallas on Sunday?
Yeah, I think so, potentially. I also think that's a byproduct of just how the game flow has gone for the Niners and the matchups or mismatches they've been able to exploit, because there was a stretch for about 5 weeks where he was the team's MVP. He went on a torrid pace and led over like a 5-week sample size all receivers and tight ends in receptions. He was dominant after the catch. But yeah, the last 3 games, he really hasn't done much. I think that is a matchup that the Niners are going to look to go after and target and attack. LVE just isn't the same guy, unfortunately, because of the neck injuries. And while Parsons is fantastic, I think his strong suit is more when he can just attack and not really think much. He's okay in coverage, but not great against a guy like George Kittle. So I think that's a big matchup to watch for on the offensive side for San Francisco.
I think you're going to see a lot of J-Ron Curse on Kittle.
J-Ron Curse. The big thing for Dallas and the Niners is Trent Williams. If Trent Williams can't go, the defensive line for the Cowboys is excellent, as you very well know. Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons. I mean, they'll load up that side. And last week the Niners went with Colton McKivitz, who is really spotty and up and down. Trent Williams is literally the highest graded all-around football player in the NFL this year. He's so good, and he protects the blind side of Garoppolo. And the Niners are going to look to run the football because that's their forte, that's their bread and butter, as I alluded to earlier. But, I mean, if Garoppolo is feeling the heat and he gets pressured, that's when he turns into bad Garoppolo as compared to clutch Garoppolo, and they're 2 vastly different players.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Trent's an elbow, right?
Say that again.
Trent's an elbow?
Yeah. So Shanahan said today he didn't practice, but Ed Warder said that he spoke to Trent Williams, and Trent said there's no way I'm not going to play because he's going to, get loaded up with painkillers and adrenaline. But, look, if you don't have your elbow for leverage, power, and a push against some of those defensive linemen, you could try to go, but you probably won't last long.
Yep.
Well, Washington made him play with a brain tumor, so maybe with the just go a little.
Well, Washington is a dog shit franchise, and they almost killed Jalen Hurts. So fuck Dan Snyder.
He's the worst. Regardless of matchups this week, we can all agree on that one for sure.
Yeah, he's a scumbag.
Speaking of the good Garoppolo versus bad Garoppolo, we from afar loved this 49ers team this year. This team was awesome. Yeah. Deebo was probably my favorite player to watch all year.
Dude, so great.
Just electric. Now, you host a very interactive show, so you're hearing from fans all the time. What's the perspective from them? Do they believe that the 49ers are a Super Bowl contender right now like I do? Or do they think Jimmy G is just not the guy? It's just not going to happen. Where do they?
The fan base is so split on Garoppolo. It's such a polarizing issue, and I see why. You see the ability, the raw talent of Trey Lance, and then the injury history of Garoppolo and the fact that he's somewhat of a limited player when it comes to arm strength, athleticism. He's certainly not going to light you up like a Josh Allen or a Justin Herbert or some of the other special physical quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's not going to run around like a Lamar Jackson or even a Trey Lance. And I think people over time have just become so frustrated with his inability to consistently stay healthy. And there's also this sentiment among the fan base that he lost the Niners the Super Bowl back in 2019, when in reality, he did miss Emmanuel Sanders on that deep shot, which could have won the Niners the game, but there was still a couple minutes left on the clock. And he outplayed Patrick Mahomes for 3+ quarters. So the fan base is so split on him. Now it's becoming a conversation of, wow, if he wins a playoff game, is he going to be back next year as the starter? And I think that's a reality. Lance, when he was drafted, was only 20 years old. He only played 1 full season at North Dakota State, 1 game in 2020 because of COVID. So I think it's a reality that Garoppolo is back, which is crazy because this season has just been such a roller coaster for the Niners. But this is what you can't deny. I mean, the guy is clutch. And you might look at Garoppolo and say, he's like Kirk Cousins. But unlike Kirk Cousins, he rises up in the biggest of moments and he comes through in the clutch when he needs to. 2-minute drill, end a game, and he's phenomenal. And I think he's at his best when he doesn't have to think and process so much. He can just kind of play point guard and get rid of the ball quickly and make the throws that he has to. But man, I mean, 17-0 looked like he couldn't throw the ball last week, and he doesn't panic. And for him to have that temperament, it's exactly what you want in the playoffs.
So you mentioned Trey Lance there. Do you think Shanahan's going to work him into this game using his legs? We saw what Taysom Hill did against the Cowboys. We saw what Kyler Murray did. Obviously, he doesn't run like Kyler Murray because no one does. But quarterbacks using their legs have hurt the Cowboys. Do you see Shanahan kind of using Trey Lance a little bit in this game that way?
I don't. He's alluded to this and talked about this throughout the year, that early in the year he kind of got distracted with the pressure of people wanting him to go with a 2-quarterback system, and he had even talked about employing that 2-quarterback system, and he kind of admitted it took the 49ers out of their offensive rhythm, and I think it took Garoppolo out of his rhythm as well, and kind of maybe affected his confidence, and that's why we don't see 2-quarterback systems in the NFL. Now, as far as Lance being used as a running threat, he was in the early part of the season, and then he started his first career game in week 5, got injured, was out a week or two, and then we didn't see him at all until week 17 when he had to start. So I don't think Shanahan's going to do that because I think he saw how it affected the Niners offense. Now, maybe in a quarterback sneak situation with Garoppolo's thumb being banged up, he doesn't want that to get hurt. It's tough to take a snap, maybe, but then that becomes kind of easy to pick out if you're the Cowboys defensive line that Lance is going to come in and sneak the ball.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And so you said about the Niners offensive rhythm, which when they get into a rhythm, it's a problem for defenses. And the Cowboys defensive strength is that rotation of the defensive line. They're so deep. They can rotate pieces in. Do you think Shanahan's going to go a lot of up-tempo in this game, staying in rhythm and trying to keep that rotation from being able to rotate?
I think he could, and I think that's going to be something that they're putting in the game plan and they're harping on all throughout the week, because when the Niners offense is coming, when they find a rhythm, when they're feeling the momentum, when they get going, when they're running with that up-tempo, they look like one of the most beautiful offenses in the league. And Kyle Shanahan is one of the only head coaches in the NFL who makes running the football look cool.
Yep.
And the play action game off of that is really dangerous. And you have a bunch of guys who, if you get them the ball quickly on jet sweeps, bubble screens, crossing routes, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, they really make plays after the catch. So if you can run that up tempo, it kind of tires out the Cowboys, but doesn't let them kind of go through those defensive line rotations, which then takes away that matchup advantage that they would have over a team that might go slow. Now, conversely, on the other side of that, when the Niners are struggling, when they can't find that rhythm, when they come to a halt, when they turn the football over, it can be a painful watch. So I think early in this game, it's going to be big in terms of game flow and momentum to see how both teams come out on both sides of the ball. I think it's a great matchup all across the board.
Yeah, the Rams missed 19 tackles last week. Talk about playmakers that can make players miss. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Deebo is the Yak King. Ayuk is so good. Kittle is just a load. I actually think Kittle's like somehow underrated because everybody just is obsessed with, Travis Kelce and still Gronk and Darren Waller, but Kittle's phenomenal as a blocker and as a pass catcher. But yeah, I mean, their ability to really shed tacklers is impressive. And again, like everything is kind of built off the run game. So if the Cowboys can't stop the run, and they've struggled doing that this year, that's why I think I might lean Niners.
I'm leaning with you. That I might be biased because I had Kittle and Deebo in fantasy, so I just
they helped you out a lot this year.
Of course.
Oh yeah, Deebo had to have had one of the best fantasy seasons. I don't play fantasy, but he had to have had one of the best fantasy seasons in recent memory.
Yes. Oh, without a doubt, he was definitely top 5. It was fun to watch. Let's sneak this one in here. I know you're a PA guy, so let's talk Eagles Cowboys for one quick second. How do you see this game going? Do you think we can pull the upset?
Dude, I don't know what it is, I feel like the Eagles can win. Like, I really feel like they can win. I don't know what it is. I know the Bucs are better. I know they have the GOAT. I know their offense is great. And I know the Eagles haven't played anybody the entire back half of the year when they won 7 of their last 10 games. And really, it was 7 of 9 because, honestly, I've never heard any of those people playing on the defense against the Cowboys on Saturday night. But there's just something about this game that tells me they can win. And I think they can pull off the upset. Now I'm going to go Bucs just because it's the Bucs, are the reigning Super Bowl champions. They have the playoff experience, and it's Tom Brady. But is Philly, are the Eagles in Tom Brady's head a little bit? Can they run the football down the Bucs' throats? I think they could. Vita Vea is a load, but they're not the same run defense that they were last year. And I think the Eagles just play the best when they have this underdog mentality. It sounds so corny, but we know that it's true, that they just play their best football. I mean, we're not talking about a one-year sample size of when they won the Super Bowl. It was 2018 and it was 2019 as well, when they had to basically win out in December in those final months. And they were a dangerous playoff team because they're confident. They went on the road. They competed. And this year's team, I kind of like how they match up against Tampa. Now, I'm definitely afraid of the Buccaneers offense against the Eagles defense because during this winning span, like, the Eagles haven't played any quarterbacks really since Justin Herbert. Really, they haven't played a legitimate quarterback, and Tom Brady is certainly that. But I don't know. Something tells me the Eagles can pull off the upset. I think they do cover 9.5 points, though.
What about this too, which I unfortunately think leans more towards Eagles? Sunday in Tampa, 70 degrees, 80% chance of rain, 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, rainfall up to or over a half an inch. That's running weather. Wow.
I didn't check the weather, but is this going to be the reverse Shady McCoy snow game against the Lions? And this time it's rain and Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, and Boston Scott are just coming through, and Hurts too. I think Hurts being healthy from that ankle injury is like a really big factor. He looked good against Washington running the ball. So, yeah, this game's really interesting. And look, here's the thing about the NFL this year. There's no clear-cut favor, and an upset of any variety won't surprise me one bit because I think everybody's so closely contested and everybody is kind of playing well down the stretch.
Yeah, I'd rather Dallas be in Tampa than playing San Francisco at home, not going to lie.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people were like, the 49ers are a good matchup. We don't want the Cardinals. I'd rather take another shot at the Cardinals just because they haven't been playing well the last couple of months. But yeah, some of these matchups are fascinating. I think Cowboys 49ers is one of them. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the television ratings are, considering the national fan base for both. Like, Cowboys Raiders on Thanksgiving got 28 million average viewership. I honestly think this could be like 23 to 26 million. And if it gets close, it could surpass that. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
All right. So ultimately, you're leaning Niners, 3-point favor, or the Cowboys, but you're going with your San Fran here.
That's the thing too. It's a pick'em game.
It
basically.
Really is. It really is.
So something's fishy out in Vegas with the odds makers, and as the host of the 49ers report, I gotta go with the Niners. I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to be sorry. I'm.
But I also, the Philly guy in me just wants to see the Cowboys choke again. Sorry,
Of course. I can't wait. I can't wait until Philly is in Lambeau the week after and Dallas is at home. I know my life. I know my life.
Jeez, that'll be brutal for you. Yeah.
All right. Let everybody know how they can follow you on Twitter, where they can watch you on Chat Sports, all that good stuff.
Yeah, at Chase_Senior on Twitter and Instagram. And then the 49ers report over the weekend, we had 82,000 people throughout the day join us for the watch party. We have more than 50,000 subscribers. We push out free daily videos. You just search the 49ers report or youtube.com/49ers TV. Going to be doing another watch party for this game on Sunday. Last weekend, my girlfriend was on camera, shotgunning a couple beers with me, taking shots, and we were doing lit play-by-play. So you can expect more of the same this upcoming weekend.
I'm going to empty my bank account making you do shots so you can't even talk during this game.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Tom will be live on the Cowboys report too, so we're going to be going back and forth with super chats.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Chase, thanks for hopping in. I hope you have a miserable Sunday, both games, and we'll catch up soon.
I'll say the same to you on the other side.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Thanks,
I'll
guys.
see you. Absolutely phenomenal interviews, Aiden, as always. We always bring in the best of the best here. First time talking with Evan, obviously, and he brought knowledge, he brought fun, he brought everything. And then Chase, third time on the podcast, never disappoints.
Like I told you, Evan and I became friends by the end of the show and kept talking even after the recording was done. And then Chase, we've been longtime friends with, so you can feel that energy in the podcast where you're learning stuff. You're hearing two guys who really know their stuff, but also there's that friendship aspect, which is really cool.
It is cool. It is cool. All right. What else is cool is shifting away a little bit from our two teams. Obviously, we do a lot of around the NFL, but with both of our teams being in the playoffs, we kind of had to focus the entire show just on our matchup. Real quick question. Outside of your game, what is your favorite game you're looking forward to this weekend?
I love watching the 49ers. It's probably your game.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how the Monday Night Football aspect goes. We've never seen that from a playoff point of view, so that might be cool. But I honestly think it's this 49ers Cowboys game.
So since I can't pick that game, I do agree on that as well. But I think Raiders Bengals could be a lot of fun. I really do. I think it could be high flying. I can't wait to see Burrow. And, that guy, Derek Carr, is probably Hall of Fame best quarterback ever. So
Yeah. Congrats on his first playoff appearance in his entire life. There is an alternate universe where you and I are doing a Bills versus Belichick podcast, and they're playing each other this week. Which will it be the most entertaining game? I don't know, but that's a good one. That is some legacy on the line game, division rival game. A lot of little brother feelings from the Bills, and this could be their chance.
Oh yeah,
after 20 years. So that storyline wise could probably potentially be the best game.
Agreed. All right. So speaking of around the NFL, let's get our TikTok going. We'll bring producer Vince in as we do. Ooh, no, thank you, Vince. As we do every episode. Vince is blurry, of course. He was fine all show. Now he's blurry.
Maybe you should talk to his intern about getting better internet connection.
Maybe you should, not spend $8,000 on cats and pay your Wi-Fi bill.
Listen, I declined the first time. I fixed it the second time. It's paid.
I'm here buying baby clothes at Walmart for my kid that's not going to be born for 20 years. But
he's 23.
It's a sick jumpsuit. You saw it.
Oh, God. All right. What are we talking tonight, Aiden?
Tonight, in honor of the playoffs, we are doing top 5 NFL quarterbacks in the playoffs.
Like it.
So it can be quarterbacks you like the most, quarterbacks you trust the most, just the top 5 best ones in the playoffs right now.
Let's go. Let's get
Ready?
it.
All right. We've got a normal triangle. I'll start at 5. At 5, I have Justin Herbert. It is a shame that he is not actually in the playoffs. It is not his fault. He carried this team to the playoffs. He converted 72 third downs, and then Brandon Staley and his stupid defense ruined it. He is the Klay Thompson of the NFL, and we were robbed.
I mean, can you really do that?
I did.
You're going to.
But he's not in the playoffs.
He did enough to be in the playoffs.
I also had to change my list.
Okay.
Thanks.
So 5.
Wait, did you? Oh, sorry.
I had the same thing.
Of course you did. 5 for me is Josh Allen for the Bills. I think he's a stud. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. He has an absolutely cannon for an arm. I can't wait to see how he plays against this Bill Belichick defense for the 3rd time this season. But I mean, he can quarterback my team any day.
That was oddly sensual. I didn't like that.
So I did it just for you.
Number 5, I have Marcus Mariota. I think he's probably the most dynamic tool that they have at quarterback on that team. You saw he came into the game against the Chargers, and that they ultimately won despite their own best efforts to win the game. No one was trying to win that game, but they brought Marcus Mariota in, and somehow they still won it. That guy just finds a way to win. Also, I'd really love if he made it further than the Titans did, but I still want to see Joe Burrow win, so I'm kind of conflicted.
That's true. Speaking of Joe Burrow, at 4, I have Joe Burrow. Never played a playoff game, and I've already seen enough I need to know that this kid will be stones and will be good in the playoffs.
Love it. 4 for me is Kyler Murray. I hate that little man, how fast his legs go. He can run, he can throw, he's a gamer. Sometimes he gets a little crybaby-ish, gets mad. But I think, especially if he can win this round and maybe get Hopkins back in the second round, that's only going to help him. But yeah, he beat up my team a couple weeks ago. So Kyler Murray, 4 for me.
4 for me, I have not Ryan Tannehill, just everyone else. I think he's probably the most overrated quarterback in the playoffs right now.
Ben Roethlisberger.
Derek Carr. Still Ryan Tannehill, most overrated quarterback in the playoffs right now. At least Ben has a story behind him. You know what I mean? This is his last ride.
He's old.
Which,
dead.
Yeah. I'll never believe in Ryan Tannehill until he's a Super Bowl MVP and like league MVP. I'm just not going to believe in him.
I'm not anti-Titans, but I just can't figure out how they're good. I can't figure it out. All right, at 3, I have Aaron Rodgers. The path is set for them to finally pass that obstacle of the NFC Championship. The last dance, they have home field advantage. He'll be slinging it in Lambeau, and we've seen the epic Snapchat meme, 116 left in the game. They left too much time for Aaron Rodgers. At 3, I've got Aaron Rodgers.
3 for me, I have Tom Brady, who you will be going against this weekend, the GOAT. He could be the league MVP this year. He's played at another level, especially for being 63 years old. It's just absolutely unbelievable. Father time just doesn't exist for him. Never ate a strawberry avocado ice cream. I guess it makes you good at football.
3 for me, I have Trey Lance, especially because they haven't really been using him all year. I think it's because they've been keeping him sneaky under lock and key, so no one knows what he's got. I think he's probably the most dynamic quarterback in the NFL. We just don't know about it yet, and that's the only reason I have him down at 3. I think he could be the most underrated weapon that we've never seen used. Because why else would they be doing what they've been doing all year? It has to be for a reason.
Oh, the TikTok comments are going to be ridiculous for this list.
Oh boy. At 2, I have Patrick Mahomes. I think he has that capability of winning any shootout that he's put into. He's done it before in the playoffs as well. And that trifecta of him, Kelsey, and Tyreek Hill, if healthy, can always just completely take over a game. So at 2, I've got Patrick Mahomes.
2, I have Patrick Mahomes with an asterisk. It's only if his brother is not at the game. If his brother's at the game doing TikTok dances, put him all the way under Ryan Tannehill and Ben Roethlisberger. But Mahomes, without his annoying brother or annoying wife at the games, is an absolute monster. Like you said, they can flip a switch, and that offense is just humming, whether it's to Kelsey or Hill or Pringle. He can make all the throws. He's just a freak. He's not 1, but he's 2.
2 for me, I have Tom Brady. Just greatest quarterback of all time. What else is there to say?
At 1, I have Tom Brady, greatest quarterback of all time. What else is there to say? Amazing clutch playoff moments from him.
I really thought you were going to put Jalen Hurts there, and I was going to punch you through the screen. Sure. Number 1 for me is Aaron Rodgers. He's my league MVP this year. He can he's playing with a, broken toe. It was only immunized. So he's gone through a lot this year. He had to see Dr. Joe Rogan this year. So he's been through a lot, and he can still I think he is the best thrower of the football of all time. His ball, when it leaves his hand, it looks effortless and it's beautiful, and he can do it in any weather, which makes it even more impressive.
1 for me, I have Joe Burrow. I think during the playoffs more than any other time of the year, throw skill out the window. Just, the coolness factor is the only thing that matters now. Forget skill, forget talent, forget history. All that matters is how cool you look. And no one in the NFL is cooler than Joe Burrow. That's no more important anytime than it is right now.
I can't
cool factor.
Totally disagree with that.
No, you can't, because we're Eagles fans. You saw what happened when we got a cool quarterback. We made the playoffs with a team that had no business being in the playoffs.
Well, we had a cool quarterback before.
Who? Donovan McNabb? Mike Vick? Who?
Mike Vick was the coolest person to probably ever play football. Him and Iverson are just culturally the most accepted cool people of all time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, Vincent. Thank you very much. All right.
That's a wrap on the first ever playoff preview episode for Birds vs. Boys.
Will we both be back previewing more playoff football next week?
I said this is the most important episode that we have ever had. Until next week, if we both win and it's episode 100 and we're both doing a playoff preview again, in which case that will be the most important episode that we have ever had.
Here we go. Cowboys beat the Niners. Eagles beat the Bucks. I don't care. Rams beat the Cardinals. Next week, we're previewing Eagles in Lambeau.
Oh.
Cowboys hosting the Rams, episode 100. And then episode 101, we're previewing Eagles at Cowboys NFC Championship.
That happens. We might be live in Dallas by that point, to be honest with you.
I think we have a better chance of sitting down for breakfast with Jesus than that happening this year. But hey, we'll see.
I don't know. It just feels good. It feels good, and I hope this ride continues. Let's get some wins this weekend. Let's see how it all unfolds. This has been a great regular season. Let's keep that momentum going into the playoffs, baby.
Follow us on Twitter, Birds vs. Boys Pod. TikTok. Where else, Aidan?
YouTube. Subscribe.
Please. Subscribe to our YouTube. We're putting out new content on our YouTube channel. We have an intern who's making cool videos. We have our reaction pods. YouTube. Tell your friends, tell your family. And then anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, we are there. Tell your friends, tell your family. This is a podcast for all football fans, not just Cowboys and Eagles fans. We're here for the playoffs, and we will continue all offseason draft talk. We do it all. 365 days a year of straight football at Birds vs. Boys.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds vs. Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things.
I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there. There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach. That it?
Be the team you promised me you were going to be this year!
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.